Hey everyone! What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Fusion Deck User in a different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. The series What If Transmigrated as Minato Namikaze is now on hold, since we're caught up with the author. Along with that, the series What If Fishing System and Food Wars World will be going on hold soon, since we're nearly caught up with the author there as well. So now, I need your help picking the next two projects for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if creating the strongest Strawhat crew by reading manga? What if Transmigrated and taking over Ichigo's body? What if martial artist Reborn is Kenichi Shirahama? Please vote in the poll and let me know which stories you'd like to see next. I'll take the top 2 picks and start working on those series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 491, Too Friendly. Leo Akubo walked into the Security Bureau headquarters with a group of nobles. And there, he saw the greatest enemy of the nobility in this dimension. Director of the Security Bureau, Godwin. His expression was mild, his face composed and gentle, almost humble and scholarly. No trace of threat could be read from his demeanor. But the nobles knew better. This peaceful exterior was nothing but the man's daily disguise. In truth, his nature was ruthless, cold, merciless. During the friendship cup between the S dimension and F dimension, he had taken advantage of the weakened defenses to assassinate the aristocratic elders in the council, robbing the nobles of their leadership in one stroke. Although the nobles still controlled most of the world's industries, agriculture, and resources, the military, by now, was already more than half in Godwin's hands. If not for the hidden power of the nobility, and their proven capability to drag their enemies down with them, Godwin would likely have purged them long ago. Still, the Security Bureau wasn't entirely without noble-aligned officers. One of them was the Deputy Director, Jean-Michel Roger, the second highest official in the Bureau. Roger lacked Godwin's prestige, but he had his own loyal subordinates. To the nobles, Godwin was the greatest barrier preventing them from taking back control. As long as Godwin was removed, they could seize the entire world's lifeline once again. However, that was before Leo learned of the truth of the one God and the related events of this dimension. Compared to those chosen for the war of the one God, compared to nobles secretly aware of the divine struggle, Godwin, a mere scheming mortal who clawed his way to the top of the Security Bureau, was hardly worthy of consideration. Godwin, you are no longer allowed to delay. Recently, more and more of the lower city trash have resisted our police forces. Only 2 days ago they even stormed our prison and released countless criminals. We can't let this continue. Yes. We must strike hard. Godwin stood with his hands behind his back, voice calm. Everyone, I understand your concerns. But the people of the lower city are simply expressing their grievances. I believe we can. Enough nonsense. Roger suddenly cut him off. Director Godwin, at this point, we must draw a clear line between us and these creatures. For the sake of our citizens. He didn't finish. A massive explosion echoed from outside. The corners of Roger's mouth twitched upward in satisfaction. He had already reviewed all the city's surveillance feeds. He understood exactly how today would unfold. He knew, without question, another uprising would occur right at this moment. A perfect opportunity. Just as he anticipated, a security officer rushed in, turned on the monitors, and displayed feeds from all over the city. Across the entire lower district, unrest had erupted. Lines of glowing earthbound markings illuminated the streets. The people of the Undercity were sincerely willing to risk their lives to resist. Godwin stared coldly at the displays, his face unreadable. Seeing Godwin unmoved, several nobles scoffed. Godwin, regardless of your reluctance, the lower district savages are destroying the city. For the sake of protecting the city, protecting the citizens, protecting our own interests, we must deploy the police. Deputy Director Roger, the order is yours. Roger nodded vigorously and laughed. Then let our police, together with our allies, begin this glorious game. As he spoke, several police officers who looked completely different from the normal security force put on their dual discs and smirked as they marched out. WHWH, who are these people? I've never seen them. Godwin's aide, Yeager, shouted in panic. Ah, these are security officers specially modified by our allies, our brand new police force. Roger boasted proudly. Godwin didn't react, not to stop them, not to comment. He simply watched them leave, as calmly as if he were watching a group of dead men walking. At the same time, after Leo and the nobles exited the bureau, a soldier hurried over with an email device. In the message was surveillance footage, Serena sneaking into the base, Serena rescuing Ruri, and the two girls, by a twist of accident, being sucked into the only active dimensional gate and transported to the S dimension. Leo's eyes narrowed. Capture them. Then he turned toward the security officers and ordered. Let them assist as well. Have them join Rin. Yes, sir. Leo Akaba didn't know how Serena had infiltrated the Fusion Army's main base, nor how she managed to extract Ruri right under Yuri's watch. But now that both girls had arrived in this dimension, this was the perfect opportunity. Just yesterday, he had been lamenting the absence of his daughters. And today? Two of them had come straight to him. Perhaps. This is what people call family bonds. His soldiers relayed the information quickly, and the security force soon received additional orders. Capture several identical girls, they look alike except for different outfits and hairstyles. Hard to distinguish, but very easy to target. 10 a.m., security outpost, satellite. Inside a police restroom in the lower city, a bunch of officers were drinking water and milling around. Crazy day. Yesterday they fined our salaries, I thought we were done for. And now they suddenly give us new cards. A regular officer scratched his head as he examined the new dual monster card in his hand. But, why fusion monsters? They couldn't quite understand what was happening. Now they want us to catch little girls, TCH, this job gets filthier every day. Another officer sighed after checking the mission briefing. Catch little girls? What the hell do those freaks want? UCI's rival, Tetsu, had been dozing on a hammock with a newspaper over his face. Hearing the conversation, he perked up, reached out, and grabbed the tablet. He scanned the images. Girls with different hairstyles and outfits, but the exact same face. Definitely disguises. Some kind of transformation trick. He was about to shrug it off, but then he noticed something odd. One of the girl's hairstyles and clothes looked exactly like the girl from the Friendship Cup. The one often seen hanging around with UCI. Wasn't she also friends with Amaji Hikaru? He hesitated. Stared at the screen for a long moment. Then suddenly got up and pushed his D-wheel outside. Boss, you're heading out this early? Starting work already? No. I'm just doing a lap. You all can clock in later. Yes. The whole squad cheered like children. Meanwhile, Tetsu mounted his D-wheel, synced the systems, and pulled up the ID of the patrol car that had messaged him earlier. He didn't know why he was doing this. But these last few days had changed something in him. He had seen things, in the nobles, in the city, and in Hikaru's duels. Things that made him question why he became a cop in the first place. To protect people? Or to be someone's obedient dog? TCH. They claim the satellite is full of criminals, yet here I am acting as an informant thief. Great. 10:10 a.m. Hikaru's workshop. After finishing an all-night overhaul of the grimoire, Hikaru suddenly received a new message. He opened it. 3 photos appeared, 3 girls who looked identical at first glance, but he knew each one was a different person. His breath caught. Serena? Even Tiara beside him gasped. Looks like you've been far too gentle with her. Next time, you'd better be stricter. Chapter 492, Disperse. Hours of rioting in the satellite finally met the full suppression forces. Originally, thanks to the power of the earthbound geoglyphs, the lower city civilians could siphon off the security officers' life energy. Even if they started with losses, they could gradually wear the police down. This was Shinji's idea. They might lose many comrades early on, but as long as they defeated enough security officers and stole their decks, their strength would snowball. Then the 99% lower city population could overthrow the 1% nobles. Sacrifice would lead to victory. Attrition was the strategy. And for a long time, this strategy worked. Their rebel army's decks grew stronger with every stolen card. But today, when the upper city finally decided to go all out, Shinji realized everything had changed. Security wasn't just using stronger cards. They were suddenly negating every anti-synchro card the rebels had prepared. Worse, some strange security officers didn't tire, fought like machines, and hunted down rebels with terrifying efficiency. Even 5 or 6 people attacking a single one of them had trouble. On top of that, security was multiplying unnaturally, almost as if they had been cloned, creating multiple officers chasing the same target. This completely exceeded Shinji's expectations. Even more horrifying. Before today, the rebels used their knowledge of the earthbound geoglyphs to deal real physical damage. Roads would break, vehicles would explode, they could fight on equal terms. But today, several security officers, even outside any geoglyph field, summoned strange mechanical constructs that caused real damage, crushing streets, arresting or killing civilians without hesitation. Damn them all. Shinji slammed his handlebars. Another officer rolled up behind him and fired a shot at the road. The sudden explosion sent shards of pavement flying. He nearly wiped out. You bastard. His dark signer mark lit up. It was the weakest tier of the marks, but he didn't care. So long as he could resist the upper city, so long as he could make them feel the fury of the oppressed, he would take any power, no matter how faint or dangerous. He managed to defeat one security officer. But more kept coming. 3D wheels closed in, about to box him in. Shinji's expression darkened. He made up his mind, he would use the earthbound geoglyph again, even if it meant sacrificing his life and soul. When suddenly, from the sky. Don't be reckless. A massive black bird dive-bombed toward them, exploding upon impact and forcing the officers back. Shinji. He turned. It was his partner, Crow. His black D-wheel now sprouted mechanical wings on both sides, slicing through the air like a jet fighter. Shinji. Your plan failed. Tell everyone to retreat and hide, we need to rethink everything. No. We struggled so hard to gather everyone. Even if we die here, we have to make the nobles feel pain. It's useless. Crow cut him off sharply. You still don't get it? Half those security officers aren't even human. Some are literal robots, and others are regular officers controlled by some strange power. If you keep this up, the only ones who'll die are civilians and normal cops who showed up for work. Even if dozens of comrades fall, all you'll do is destroy a few robots. There's no point. We need a long-term plan, Shinji. Robots? Shinji finally looked back at the officers pursuing them, and understood. No wonder his people couldn't drain their energy. No wonder fatigue wasn't affecting them. His whole strategy was meaningless. Damn the upper city. How far will they go to toy with us? Seeing Shinji like this, Crow felt he finally understood the situation. Crow turned his head and spotted a group of security officers surrounding a child on the side road. He quickly swung his D-wheel around. Shinji. They're chasing a kid. Chasing a kid? Shinji suddenly reacted as if he had grabbed onto a lifeline. Ah, right. There's still that option. What? Shinji? Crow stared at him, startled. Shinji's eyes had turned completely black, the white swallowed by darkness, and the mark of the dark signer on his left arm burned vividly. What is he thinking? Before Crow could react, Shinji spun his D-wheel around and sped straight toward Upper City. Crow was stunned. Then he heard the girl scream behind him. He snapped out of it and launched the glider mode of his Blackbird. Normally, the Blackbird's flight module wasn't ready for use yet, but thanks to Hamura's earlier upgrades, it could now function in emergencies. Crow leapt off the upper lane, wings extended, gliding downward. A metallic clack sounded as he landed. Ha! It's Crow! Several security officers recognized him. Crow also saw the girl they had boxed in. Rin? Why are you here? I told you and Yuya to stay hidden today. Crow was furious. The girl was dressed differently, a strange purple uniform, but he didn't think too much about it. Hey, Crow! That girl is a criminal the higher-ups ordered us to capture. Stay out of it. What? Rin is 14. How could she be a criminal? Crow didn't hesitate. He accelerated instantly, forcing the officers to jump aside in panic. He scooped the girl up onto the D-wheel and rode off while the officers stared in disbelief. Should we chase him? You chase if you want. Didn't you see even Chief Tetsu was stalling today? The officers just muttered among themselves. Meanwhile, let go of me. The girl pounded on Crow's back. Quit struggling, Rin. We need to. I'm not Rin. I'm Serena. I'm not whoever you're talking about. Who? Crow blinked, confused. Put me down right now. Ruri fell somewhere and I don't know where she landed. Who is Ruri? At the same time, Yusei stretched his arms and legs, testing his fully recovered body. He was just about to take his D-wheel out for a test run when something fell out of the sky. Boom! A black-haired girl crashed into a pile of trash. Rin? No, that's not her. She looked extremely similar, but she wasn't Rin. He stared at her, puzzled. Outside, a flood of chaotic shouting rose up. Dozens of people were searching for her. If she wasn't Rin, then what about the real Rin? Yusei frowned. If they were chasing this girl, then someone who looked exactly like her. Rin would definitely be mistaken for her and hunted down too. Chapter 493, Arriving on Time. Let go of Rin, you bastards. In a small lower city house, Yugo rammed into a security officer, hoping Rin could break free. Just moments earlier, a whole group of strange-acting security officers barged into Crow's orphanage while Crow wasn't around. As the self-proclaimed reliable big brother of the orphanage, Yugo of course stepped forward to protect the kids so they wouldn't get scared. He and Rin had grown up together as orphans, trained together under Yusei, aiming to become duelists worthy of rising to Upper City like Jack. They never caused trouble, never committed crimes, never tried sneaking into Upper City. Even the most unreasonable security wouldn't target people like them. But unexpectedly, the moment these officers saw Rin, they didn't explain anything. They just declared she was a wanted criminal and tried to take her away. How could he allow that? Yugo slammed into one of the officers hard enough for Rin, whose hands were tied behind her, to break free. She didn't even understand what was happening. She lashed out with a sharp knee strike and knocked another officer away, shouting Yugo, as she ran toward him. The small children hiding inside the house covered their mouths, trembling and crying silently in fear. Resisting arrest? Then grab that guy too. Without hesitation, several officers pulled out electric batons and struck Yugo. Gah! Yugo screamed from the shock, but seeing Rin escape unharmed made it easier to endure. But then, the next moment terrified him. The officers didn't care about Rin at all, they actually intended to use the same brutal force on her. Rin! Yugo roared. His eyes suddenly blazed scarlet, and a red aura surged from him, blasting the officers away. What is this? He's like Representative Yuri. The officers whispered in fear. They had already been uneasy around Yugo. Now that he showed strength no normal human should have, their fear only grew. But Yugo wasn't the man they thought he was. So they continued to rush him anyway. Just then, a sharp ripping sound filled the room. Countless purple puppet strings shot out, forming a solid wall between the officers and Yugo and Rin. Rin hurried to Yugo's side and bumped him with her arm. Her bracelet glowed, and Yugo finally calmed down. The officers stared at the purple wall of strings. Several screamed. Others staggered backward in pure instinctive fear. TCH, so he really came here, huh? Even though he wasn't visible yet, the officers instantly understood who those strings belonged to. He's here. Hikaru. The next second, a D-wheel drifted into the alley, stopping with a sharp brake. The rider removed his helmet. Hikaru stared at the officers coldly. Ha! I've never heard of the Fusion Army, a group devoted to destruction and invasion, suddenly rebranding themselves as Guardians of Order. Hikaru and I. Yugo shouted with relief. Hikaru nodded once at him. Then his gaze returned to the officers. They wore security uniforms, but Hikaru could tell immediately, these weren't real security officers. They were Fusion Army soldiers. Real security officers, even when arresting someone, start with a duel, writing duel, group duel, whatever. Even suspects are given the right to fight back through dueling. Only the Fusion Army attacks people directly. Hikaru and I. These guys are trying to arrest Rin without any explanation. I can see that, Hikaru said with a small nod, looking at the Fusion Army troops. So, do you have anything you want to say? Don't get cocky, Hikaru. At the end of the day you are just a duelist. These two are wanted by this city's authorities. Are you really going to stand up for them? Ha! That is hilarious. I am a wanted man too. The air grew heavy. Yugo almost laughed out loud, but Rin bumped him with her shoulder and he hurriedly held it in. The Fusion Army disguised as security went speechless on the spot. All right, you lot, stand down. Just as they were racking their brains for a comeback, a voice cut across the alley. Hikaru looked up at the rooftop. A man in a true Fusion Army uniform, different from the fake security gear below, stood there with his arms folded, looking down at them. Lilos, ha! This guy always had to stand somewhere high whenever he appeared. Hikaru quietly filed that personality quirk away. It was the same Fusion Army general who had appeared 2 days ago alongside the Synchro nobles, Lilos. Lilos jumped down from the roof and landed in front of Hikaru. The Fusion Army officers immediately relaxed and moved to stand at his side, as if they had finally found their backbone. Hikaru. After that day, I re-examined myself. So I decided I would defeat you with my own power, once and for all. Only then will our Fusion Army's great cause stop being thwarted. So your idea of settling things is to come to an orphanage in the lower city and grab a kid? Poof. Do not think I do not know you. Whenever it comes to the Fusion Army, you try to interfere, whatever we try to do, you try to ruin it. We received orders to arrest these criminals for the sake of this dimension. Of course you would show up to get in the way. Ha! All I did was sit here and wait for the rabbit to jump into the snare. He was about to keep posturing, but suddenly froze for a moment. No. Poof. That is wrong. If I am going to duel you, I cannot afford to hide behind tricks. It was as if something had finally clicked in his mind. His tone turned firm. That previous man's duel with you already proved it to me. If I do not even have the courage to put everything on the line, I will be defeated by you without question. I will use the fusion that our Fusion Army is so proud of, and defeat you completely. I will tell you the truth, Hikaru. Lady Serena fell into this dimension by accident. If that worries you and you cannot stay focused, then all I can say is how unfortunate and disappointing you are. That is the limit of your ability. Right now, duel me. I will prove the power of our Fusion Army's fusion. If you defeat me, you can protect this girl and then go search for Lady Serena. As he spoke, he tapped his duel disc. A band of purple energy shot out in the form of a chain and wrapped around Hikaru's arm, binding him so he could not leave until the duel was over. Hikaru raised an eyebrow and glanced at his D-wheel. Several lines of related intel had already scrolled across the display many times. He had not come here on some sudden impulse. So there is someone this hot-blooded in the fusion army too, fine by me. Duel. Duel. Lilo's LP, 4000. Hikaru LP, 4000. Chapter 494, Really Inhumane. The duel officially began, with the fusion army police and Yugo standing clearly behind their respective duelists, cheering for their own sides. Yugo's group, carefree by nature and still fuming from being bullied earlier, cheered enthusiastically for Hikaru. On the fusion army side, although they initially tried their best to support Lilo's, their cheers were only briefly louder than Yugo's. As the stubborn Yugo continued shouting non-stop, these soldiers, who already lacked confidence, gradually fell silent. Lilo's took in the scene, keenly aware of his army's poor morale and wavering spirits. Hikaru, no matter what, this time, I will defeat you with fusion. Then I hope you won't talk nonsense again, Hikaru replied calmly. Lilo's snorted and began his turn. Drawl. I activate the spell card, Ground Xeno. This card, isn't that a dinosaur-type spell? Tiara, standing nearby, looked amused when she saw it. It was rare for someone to use a card associated with Hikaru. And more importantly, this card allows me to add one dinosaur-type tuner or dinosaur-type normal monster from my deck to my hand, Lilo's explained as he searched through his deck. A tuner? Yugo muttered from the sidelines. Didn't he say he was using fusion? Hearing this, the already low morale of the soldiers dropped even further. Humph, just like that guy said earlier, fusion is inclusive. Fusion is vast, Lilo sneered. Who says searching a dinosaur-type tuner means I have to synchro summon? I choose Megazolar, a normal monster, and add it to my hand. Then, according to Ground Xeno's effect, I must destroy one card from my hand. He searched a monster, but now he has to destroy a card, Yugo whispered, confused. Isn't that kind of a loss? Idiot, Rin snapped, tapping Yugo on the head again. The duels barely started. Don't jump to conclusions. I destroy Ptityrannodon from my hand. A small, baby-like dinosaur appeared briefly on the field, sitting innocently on the ground. Before it could even cry out, a meteor crashed down from the sky, crushing it instantly. Ptityrannodon's effect activates. Lilo's declared. When this card is destroyed by an effect and sent to the graveyard, I can special summon one level 4 or higher dinosaur-type monster from my deck. That monster cannot attack this turn. I special summon Stegosaurus. Rumble. A heavily armored Stegosaurus roared as it emerged, its metallic plates gleaming like steel. Stegosaurus level 6 Dark Dinosaur ATK, 1200. He special summoned a level 6 monster right away. Back and forth, no loss at all. Several fusion army soldiers shouted toward Yugo's side. Did you see that, kid? This is the power of General Lilo's. Watch closely and learn. Yugo clenched his fists, his body trembling as he growled. Those bastards. It's not over yet. Lilo's suddenly shouted. Pointing at Hikaru, he continued. Your duel has severely damaged my army's morale. As their commander, I can't allow you to act so recklessly. Let me show you the true meaning of fusion. I activate Ground Xeno's effect in the graveyard. I banish it, then send fusion material specified by a dinosaur-type fusion monster from my hand or field to the graveyard, and fusion summon. Whoa! Oh! The fusion army soldiers erupted in excitement. Not only could Ground Xeno search fusion materials, it could also perform a fusion afterward. To them, this was the purest embodiment of fusion. Even through sacrifice, we advance. Unifying all dimensions, this is fusion. I use Stegosaurus on the field and Megazolar from my hand. The fusion condition is a dinosaur-type monster and a normal monster. The ultimate dinosaur of extreme evolution, now transcend everything and appear. Lilos raised both hands, clasped them together, then slammed them downward. Fusion Summon. Level 12. Transcendosaurus Gigantozolar. A massive Gigantozolar emerged on the field. Its body swelled violently, and the twin horns on its head grew wildly, stretching skyward like the branches of a divine tree. What was once merely large now became colossal, so immense it towered over the streets of the upper district, standing between heaven and earth. Transcendosaurus Gigantozolar Level 12 Earth a Dinosaur. ATK 3800. Gigantozolar. Hikaru frowned. Oh. A level 12 fusion monster. And its ATK is 3800. That's even higher than Blue Eye's White Dragon. Yugo swallowed hard. It's even stronger than Jack's Red Dragon Archfiend. When Transcendosaurus Gigantozolar is special summoned, Lilos continued coldly, target one dinosaur-type monster in your graveyard. That monster is added to your hand. Lilos opened his graveyard and picked up a card. I add Ptityrannodon from my graveyard to my hand. The Ptityrannodon that had just been destroyed seemed to return tearfully to his hand. I set one card and end my turn. Lilos ended his turn swiftly. A level 12 fusion monster. In terms of level alone, it truly is the highest level fusion monster, Hikaru said, looking up at the sky-obscuring dinosaur and nodding slightly. To be honest, the fusion army had produced quite a few powerful fusion-related cards. Ancient Gear Chaos Giant, various Ancient Gear fusion monsters, and even that slave fusion card Hikaru still wanted badly. Objectively speaking, the fusion army wasn't lacking in fusion research. Speaking of which, Hikaru continued casually, the fusion army general I met last time said something similar. Your goal is to eliminate barriers, let everyone live in the same dimension, and unify all dimensions, right? That's only natural, Lilos replied. And do they believe it? Hikaru casually pointed toward the soldiers behind him. Belief is extremely important, Lilos said calmly, nodding. As a duelist, to reach greater heights and become stronger, one must possess unwavering belief. For us, unifying all dimensions is our shared belief. And the reason their belief wavers now is precisely because of your existence. Your fusion is a shock to their faith. As long as we defeat you and reintegrate the fusion army from top to bottom, we will once again be invincible. He clenched his fists as he spoke. This was something Lilos had realized after watching that Earthbound Immortal duel. Trying to oppose Hikaru with a mere fusion counter mindset proved nothing. Even if he won, then what? It would only mean defeating a powerful enemy, while lurking behind him was Growler, the nightmare in the darkness. The real reason the fusion army feared Hikaru was simple. When it came to belief, philosophy, and the very meaning of the word fusion, they had never truly dared to decide victory or defeat against him. XYZ tactics. Fusion lockdowns. Ultimately, the reason they relied on these methods against Hikaru was because they didn't believe they could defeat him with fusion itself. Deep down, they already believed Hikaru was the answer to fusion. And if that was the case, how could they ever truly fight him? Compared to all that, Hikaru snorted, isn't the real issue how easily your beliefs shatter? If you truly practiced what you believed, how could I have broken it so easily? Drawl. Hikaru glanced at the card he drew. I activate the field spell, Magical Meltdown. A massive, fiery red magic circle spread across the field. Behind Hikaru, the silhouette of a magician slowly emerged. When this card is activated, add one Alistair the Invoker from your deck to your hand. Magical Meltdown. Lilos's heart skipped a beat. Even though it was just a single card, an intense sense of danger surged through him. This is bad. Countless possibilities raced through his mind. Never underestimate the activation of a field spell, especially this one. The chain of consequences hidden behind it was terrifying. First of all, Alistair the Invoker was a spellcaster capable of performing fusion with almost zero cost. The moment he appeared, he could immediately search Invocation, his signature spell. But that wasn't even the most dangerous part. Invocation could fusion summon an invoked monster by banishing fusion materials from either player's graveyard. Lilos's gaze shifted to Transcendosaurus Gigantozolar. Gigantozolar possessed an effect: if it was destroyed, he could return one normal monster from his graveyard to the deck, then special summon Gigantozolar from the graveyard. But if Alistair used Invocation to banish Megazolar from his graveyard, Gigantozolar would instantly lose that effect. No revival. No comeback. Then, an Earth-invoked monster, combined with Alistair's own effect, could easily reach 4000 ATK and destroy Gigantozolar in battle. From that point on, the duel would become completely passive for him. The only way to preserve his strategy would be if Hikaru didn't know Gigantozolar's effect and instead banished Stegocyber, the effect monster. But that possibility was slim to none. Not only was Hikaru deeply knowledgeable about fusion, but his senior, Rex, specialized in dinosaur-type monsters. There was no way they hadn't discussed the effects of these cards. Normal summon Alistair the Invoker. Hikaru didn't waste a single word. While Lilos was still calculating, he directly normal summoned Alistair. A green-haired magician appeared in front of him. Alistair the Invoker, level 4 Dark Spellcaster /ATK, 1000. Alistair's effect activates. When this card is normal summoned or flip summoned, add one invocation from your deck to your hand. Wait! Lilos suddenly shouted. I activate the trap card, Torrential Tribute. What? Yugo and Rin were both stunned. This was an extremely classic card, so famous that even ordinary residents of the lower city recognized it. And precisely because they knew it, the shock was even greater. Because Torrential Tribute's effect was simple and brutal. When a monster is normal summoned, flip summoned, or special summoned, destroy all monsters on the field. Wouldn't that destroy his own monster as well? Before either of them could even ask, towering waves surged across the entire field. The colossal flood swallowed everything, even the gigantic dinosaur. Screams of terror echoed from the lower city spectators below. Boom! Both monsters disintegrated into dust and vanished. At this moment, Lilos declared coldly, the effect of Transcendosaurus Gigantozolar activates. He waved his hand as a massive dinosaur forced its way out of the graveyard, its twin horns ripping through the earth. When Transcendosaurus Gigantozolar is destroyed, target one normal monster in your graveyard, return it to the deck, then special summon this card. I return Megazolar to the deck. Revive Transcendosaurus Gigantozolar. The gigantic dinosaur rose once more, standing firmly upon the battlefield. And it's not over yet. When Transcendosaurus Gigantozolar is special summoned, target one dinosaur-type monster in your graveyard. Add it to your hand. I add Stegocyber to my hand. The armored Stegosaurus card slid neatly into his grasp. And there's more. Lilos continued sharply. When this card is special summoned from the graveyard, I can target one card from my hand or field and one card on my opponent's field, and destroy them both. I destroy Ptyranodon, and your magical meltdown. Gigantozolar slammed its massive horns into the ground. The blazing summoning array shattered instantly, exploding into fragments of light. And now, Ptyranodon's effect. When this card is destroyed, special summon one level 4 or higher dinosaur-type monster from my deck. I special summon Ultimate Ancient Tyranno. A massive white dinosaur descended from above, wings spread wide as it unleashed blazing energy from its jaws. Ultimate Ancient Tyranno level 8 birth a dinosaur ATK, 2700. Oh! Not only did he wipe out Hikaru's monster in field spell, he recovered his fusion materials too. And he even special summoned a level 8 monster. As expected of General Lilos, this is masterful. Fusion is cyclical. Commander Lilos is invincible. The fusion army soldiers erupted in cheers, but the moment Lilos heard that last sentence, his expression darkened. He turned sharply and glared at the soldier who had spoken. The man froze, quickly lowering his head, trembling in fear. Poof! Lilos turned back toward Hikaru. How about it, he said coldly. Even if we sacrifice countless times, we will continue advancing. This is the Fusion Army. Even if you know Gigantozolar's effects, you still can't disrupt my strategy. Hikaru merely looked at him, expression unreadable, almost mildly exasperated. Then let's make this even better, he said calmly. Activate invocation. His gaze shifted to Lilos's graveyard. Compared to preventing Transcendosaurus Gigantozolar from reviving, what Hikaru truly wanted was to banish Ptityrannodon. Chapter 495, Discussed. According to Invocation's effect, by banishing Alistair the Invoker from my graveyard and Ptityrannodon from your graveyard, I fusion summon an invoked monster. Come forth, Earth invoked monster. Invoked Magellanica. Boom! A colossal stone giant emerged behind Hikaru, hoisting an enormous mountain upon its back. Its sheer size rivaled even the towering Gigantozolar standing opposite it. Invoked Magellanica Level 8, Earth Rock ATK, 3000. Invocation's graveyard effect can only be activated once per turn, Hikaru continued calmly. I target my banished Alistair the Invoker. This card returns to the deck, and Alistair is added to my hand. Alistair returned to Hikaru's grasp as he raised his gaze toward the opposing field. Battle phase. Invoked Magellanica, attack Ultimate Ancient Tyranno. The stone giant surged forward, its massive body crashing down upon the white-winged dinosaur. He didn't attack Gigantozolar? He's probably trying to keep Alistair in hand. That card's way too important. Several Fusion Army soldiers whispered among themselves. Even without fully understanding Alistair's later effects, Yugo could tell how critical the card was. A single monster that enabled fusion summoning while also synergizing with a dedicated fusion spell was invaluable. Still, something felt off. If Lilos had more revival options, why leave Ultimate Ancient Tyranno alive? After all, with that monster on the field, special summoning dinosaurs from the graveyard could lead to additional draws. Lilos LP, 3700. Main Phase 2, Hikaru said. I activate the continuous spell, Overload Future Fusion. Overload Future Fusion? Lilos frowned. Why use that when Future Fusion is stronger? Hikaru chuckled lightly. Overload Future Fusion's effect. I reveal one fusion monster from my extra deck, then send one fusion material listed on it from my deck to the graveyard. This turn, I cannot special summon that monsters with the same original name, nor activate their effects. He revealed a card from his extra deck. I reveal Super Magician Swordsman, Dark Magician Swordsman. I send Dark Magician to the graveyard. That card! Yugo exclaimed. He hadn't forgotten the crushing defeat he suffered at its hands during the Interdimensional Friendship Cup. I set one card and end my turn. Hikaru crossed his arms, watching his opponent calmly, as if inviting the next move. Lilos snorted coldly and drew. Spell card, Pot of Greed. I draw 2 cards. He. His grin widened as he glanced at the stone giant across the field. Alistair can discard himself to increase the ATK of a fusion monster you control by 1000, Lilos said confidently. As long as Alistair stays in your hand, Invoked Magellanica effectively has 4000 ATK. Even Gigantozolar's 3800 can't overpower it. But you made one mistake. This turn, I can activate Gigantozolar's effect to destroy your monster. When that happens, even a 4000 ATK monster will vanish in an instant. Hikaru merely watched, silent and thoughtful. The only thing I lack, Lilos continued, is a normal monster in my graveyard. So, I'll simply solve that. Spell card Beta Evolution Pill. Ultra Transcendence. A massive capsule appeared overhead, half glowing white, half pulsing with ominous purple light. This card activates by tributing 2 monsters from my hand or field, including a dinosaur-type monster. I then special summon one level 5 or higher dinosaur-type monster from my deck or extra deck whose ATK is equal to or greater than the combined ATK of the tribute monsters. Oh! A brand new fusion, a fusion army soldier shouted. I've never even seen that card, this wasn't developed by the organization. Lilos smirked. Of course not. This is a card I acquired in this world through dealings with its nobles over the past 2 days. A card that belongs to this world. He locked eyes with Hikaru. Just like the metamorphosis you love to use, this card can special summon fusion monsters directly from the extra deck. But this one goes even further. I tribute Frostosaurus and Ptityrannodon from my hand. Special summon. Level 12. Transcendosaurus Glaciosaurus. Icy winds howled across the battlefield as shards of frost rained from the sky. A colossal Brachiosaurus encased in ice stepped forward, standing beside Gigantozolar. Transcendosaurus Glaciosaurus Level 12 Water Dinosaur. ATK, 3600. This is. Rin covered her mouth in shock. Yugo screamed, a spell card that special summons a synchro monster without synchro summoning. It fused a synchro monster like a fusion. Incredible, General Lilos. So strong, this is real fusion. The fusion army erupted in exhilaration. When would they ever see such an abnormal, transcendent form of fusion? To fuse even a synchro monster. How about it, Hikaru? Lilos demanded. Excellent, Hikaru replied without hesitation. This truly is an excellent duel. The cheering fusion army froze. Slowly, realization dawned on their faces. Yes. Hikaru was that kind of duelist. Even if you stood on the opposite side, so long as you truly executed a brilliant maneuver, you would still earn his praise. But precisely because of that. It makes me even angrier, Lilos. What? Lilos turned sharply to stare at him. What did you say? Say it again. Lilos, Hikaru said calmly, do you truly believe that others can be sacrificed for your so-called great cause? Lilos answered without hesitation. It has always been so. Human history is the history of war. If humanity wishes to advance, conflict is inevitable. In the past, nations fought one another, accelerating the development of weapons. Now, conflict between dimensions accelerates the evolution of dueling itself. This is only natural. He sneered lightly. Or are you saying it's wrong for me to destroy my own monsters and constantly send them to the graveyard? Ha! Aren't you the one who preaches your so-called cycle of sublimation? There was no evasion in his words. No hesitation. Hikaru paused. This wasn't the second time he had encountered such thinking. No, this was the first. The fusion army duelists he had met before only repeated Leo Akaba's slogans. In truth, they didn't believe in them at all. They merely used his theories and technology to gain power, authority, and stronger cards. But Lilos was different. He believed. And by relying on that belief, he had truly become a transcendent duelist. From a dueling standpoint alone, Lilos was unquestionably a real fusion army general, not a hollow figurehead. And precisely because of that, he was far more dangerous than the others. Have you ever thought about the victims? Hikaru asked. If it were me, Lilos replied evenly, I would sacrifice myself without hesitation. Just like this duel. Even if I cannot defeat you, I will not retreat. I want the soldiers to understand that the fusion army's fusion is never false. So you're willing to sacrifice these innocent S-dimension duelists standing beside you? Their descendants will thank us, Lilos said coldly, for creating a more perfect world. I see. Hikaru no longer argued. Instead, he said quietly, then let's continue this duel in the most direct way possible. Poof. Lilos was unmoved. Raised under Leo Akaba's doctrine, utterly convinced that exporting his civilized ideals was righteous, he would never listen. Battle, Hikaru. He pointed at the stone giant on Hikaru's field. I attack your earth-invoked monster with Gigantozolar. I discard Alistair the Invoker from my hand. Hikaru declared. Invoked Magellanica gains 1000 ATK in DF. 4000. Just from Alistair alone. So strong. Yugo muttered in disbelief. A single monster pushing ATK that high felt absurd. It's fine, Gigantozolar. Lilos roared. Sacrifice yourself for victory. Gigantozolar charged, violently clashing with the earth-invoked monster. The two titans struggled, but in the end, Gigantozolar shattered with a thunderous explosion. Lilos LP, 3700-3500. At this moment, Lilos shouted. Gigantozolar's effect activates. When this card is destroyed, return one normal monster from my graveyard to the deck, then special summon this card. I return Companion Dinosaur to the deck. Revive, brave and fearless Gigantozolar. The Crimson Dinosaur roared back onto the field. And when Gigantozolar is special summoned, Lilos continued, I target one dinosaur-type monster in my graveyard and add it to my hand. I get it now, one Fusion Army soldier exclaimed. Even if Hikaru has a trap to respond, the recovery effect still resolves. And if Hikaru doesn't respond, another added quickly. Invoked Magellanica will be destroyed, and then he'll be hit directly by 3800 and 3600. Unless Hikaru could perfectly time his set card, or had something immune to destruction. One set card alone couldn't possibly solve everything. Open the set card. Lilos' gaze sharpened as he stared at Hikaru's facedown card, rapidly calculating. Quick play spell the Book of the Law. This card can be activated by tributing one invoked monster on my field. I then fusion summon one invoked monster with a different original attribute. Different attribute. Hikaru had only used Earth so far. I tribute Earth invoked Magellanica, and transform it. Invoked Cocytus. Cracks spread across the stone giant. The summoning circle shifted, and the sound of flowing water echoed through the field. A moment later, a silver-white giant dragon burst forth from beneath the summoning circle. Hikaru, are you finally going to use me, the Great One? Yes, Cocytus. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be able to hold on, Hikaru replied honestly. Ha ha ha. As expected, I really am the strongest invoked monster. Cocytus laughed, clearly in high spirits. Invoked Cocytus level 6 Water Dragon DEF, 2900. I return Frost Brachiosaurus from my graveyard to my hand, then, seeing the change in attribute, Lilos paused, checked the cards in his hand, and frowned. I destroy Electronic Stegosaurus from my hand. And then, your invoked monster. Sorry, Hikaru interrupted calmly. Invoked Cocytus cannot be destroyed by card effects. TCH. The same type of effect as Transcendosaurus Glaciosaurus, huh? Humph, but my stats are higher. I attack invoked Cocytus with Transcendosaurus Glaciosaurus. A blizzard erupted as Glaciosaurus unleashed countless ice shards toward Cocytus. Though Cocytus was immune to card effects, battle was another matter entirely. Hikaru had no second Alistair in hand. Even with 2900 DF, Cocytus couldn't withstand the crushing assault of the level 12 dinosaur. The silver dragon froze solid, then shattered into ice. And the Gigantozolar revived from the graveyard has refreshed its battle position. Lilos roared. It can attack directly. Die, Hikaru. At that moment, Lilos was ecstatic. 3,800 ATK. Even full life points were only 4,000. With the overwhelming pressure of the battlefield, and the presence of the earthbound immortal, this blow would finish it. As if answering his will, Gigantozolar roared and lunged forward, its mountain-sized horn stabbing toward Hikaru. Rumble. Entire residential blocks were crushed under the impact. The orphanage vanished beneath smoke, debris, and collapsing rubble. Did it succeed? Lilos stared eagerly at Hikaru's position. The smoke slowly began to clear. A shadow flickered within, indistinct, wavering. Only a pair of eyes shone through the haze, glowing with an eerie violet light. Lilos instinctively took a step back. As the dust settled, Hikaru stood there, clothes torn and disheveled, yet completely unharmed. He wiped a trace of blood from the corner of his mouth. Although Lilos' spirit power wasn't weak, it still wasn't a direct strike from a true earthbound immortal. The damage was far less than Lilos had imagined. Hikaru LP, 4200. Hikaru brushed the dust from his clothes and calmly met Lilos' gaze, showing not a trace of fear despite his dangerously low life points. Lilos' expression darkened. He glanced at his hand and snorted. Activate the spell card, Foolish Burial. I send Megazolar from my deck to the graveyard. The fusion material hit the graveyard. Now everything should be airtight. Gigantozolar's revival required a normal monster, so he'd sent one himself. As long as Transcendosaurus Glaciosaurus remained on the field, Dragon's special summon from the graveyard couldn't be targeted or destroyed by effects. Without Alistair, it wouldn't be easy for Hikaru to raise another 4000 ATK monster. On top of that, Glaciosaurus couldn't be destroyed by battle. An electronic Stegosaurus in the graveyard added another layer of insurance. When an opponent's monster attacks, Lilos could pay 1000 LP, special summon it, and reduce the battle damage to 0. No matter how you looked at it, there was no way through. At the very least, Gigantozolar would revive once more. My turn. Draw. Hikaru drew a card, paused when he saw it, then looked up at Lilos with a faint smile. Lilos, let me give you some advice as a fellow duelist. Don't always assume you're right. It was already obvious last time, Hikaru continued calmly. You might look different from that noble, but deep down, you're exactly the same. Arrogant. Self-righteous. Completely unwilling to listen to others. How dare you compare me to that useless? When you first appeared, you stood atop a mountain, looking down on me. Later, you descended from above again. From beginning to end, you've dueled the same way, talking down to others, forcing your ideals onto them. Lilos stared at Hikaru in silence. He didn't care about the insult. What troubled him was this. In a situation like this, with only 200 life points left, Hikaru still dared to speak so calmly. It was as if, at this very moment, the one with fewer life points wasn't Hikaru, but Lilos himself. Just like that day. It no longer felt as though he was looking down at Hikaru. Instead, it felt as though Hikaru was looking down at him. I normal summon Keeper of Dragon Magic. Keeper of Dragon Magic level 4 a Dark Dragon ATK, 1800. Humph. It's one of Hikaru's fusion tools, several fusion army soldiers muttered resentfully. Keeper of Dragon Magic's effect, Hikaru continued calmly. When this card is normal or special summoned, I can discard one card to add a normal spell with fusion in its name from my deck to my hand. Hikaru's deck didn't physically move. Instead, a faint card converted into data and appeared before him. Behind him, Yugo and Rin saw countless fusion spells flash by like a dazzling banquet. Fusion spell Fossil Fusion. What? Lilos' expression changed instantly. Fossil Fusion. Damn it, he had only considered Invocation. He'd completely forgotten about that card. Spell card Fossil Fusion. Hikaru declared, inserting it into his duel disk. I banish the fusion materials listed on a Fossil Fusion monster from my hand, field, and or either player's graveyard, then fusion summon that monster. The fusion condition is one rock-type monster in my graveyard and one level 5 or 6 monster. Rock? Lilos froze. That's right, Hikaru said evenly. I banish invoked Magellanica from my graveyard and your level 6 Stegosaur from your graveyard. Fusion summon Mesozoic Fossil Machine, Skull Wagon. Bones and stone surged together as a skeletal dinosaur cart formed atop the battlefield. Mesozoic Fossil Machine, Skull Wagon level 6, Earth Rock ATK, 1700. TCH. Lilos cursed. You wanted to rely on that monster in your graveyard to block direct attacks and negate damage, Hikaru said. That is a strategy. But why do you always assume you can never be wrong? His gaze sharpened. Just like the strategy you handed to that noble, didn't that fail too? Hikaru had never believed victory was guaranteed. If he had, he wouldn't have been caught off guard by beings like Banner-sensei or the Light of Destruction, even with preparation. It's not over yet, Hikaru continued. Your strategy revolves around repeated destruction, repeated revival, and layered resistances. But when you saw Overload Future Fusion, didn't you think of anything else? What? Lilos frowned. Humph, Keeper of Dragon Magic's second effect. I reveal one fusion monster from my extra deck, then special summon one monster from my graveyard that's specifically listed in its text, in face-down defense position. I special summon Dark Magician. A crimson-cloaked magician appeared, chuckling quietly as he concealed himself behind a flowing curtain. Quick play spell secrets of dark magic. This card can perform either a fusion summon or a ritual summon. Ritual. Lilos' eyes widened. You even prepared ritual magic. There are moments of inspiration, Hikaru said calmly. I won't let my companions rot away in laboratories. I activate Secrets of Dark Magic effect, fusion summon one monster using monsters from my hand or field, including Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl as material. Wait, Dark Magician? Don't tell me. That's right, Hikaru said firmly. It's exactly that, don't tell me. It's been a long time, but this time, it's the real thing. Go, Gaia. Oh, Lord. Yugo gasped. Gaia answered beside Hikaru, voice filled with conviction. Let this man, who cloaks invasion in lofty words, learn what true resolve is. As a lord, nothing disgusted him more than people like Lilos. The fusion condition is Dark Magician and a Chaos Ritual monster. One power guides light. And one guides darkness. When light and darkness intertwine, chaos descends. Appear. Master of Chaos. A golden-armored warrior tore through space, cloak billowing, sword and shield blazing with power as he landed beside Hikaru. Master of Chaos Level 8 Dark Spellcaster ATK, 3000. Oh, so cool. Yugo shouted. Lilos, however, went pale. Damn it, his ace feared nothing more than a Master of Chaos. But it doesn't matter. Lilos forced himself to speak. You don't have a light monster on the field, and you've already used your normal summon. Then he remembered Master of Chaos effect. And froze. Hikaru said softly. Master of Chaos effect. When this card is fusion summoned, I can target one light or dark monster in my graveyard and special summon it. A beam of pure light flared within Hikaru's dual disc. Lilos suddenly remembered. Keeper of Dragon Magic had discarded a card. Thunder Dragon Matrix. ZZZZT. A massive dragon egg dropped from the sky. Thunder Dragon Matrix Level 1 Light Thunder ATK 0. Oh, Tiara remarked casually, glancing at it. That one looks like it'll evolve eventually, though it's not a fusion monster. Hikaru considered it briefly, then looked back at Lilos. Lilos was barely holding himself upright, hands braced against the ground. The fusion army soldiers had already stepped forward instinctively, shielding him. Hikaru narrowed his eyes and raised his hand. Then, I activate Master of Chaos final effect. I banish one light and one dark monster from my field, Keeper of Dragon Magic and Thunder Dragon Matrix. Banish all monsters on the field. Creation of heaven and earth. Gaia raised his greatsword and swept it lightly through the air. The world itself seemed to tear. The two massive dinosaurs struggled violently, then vanished into the rift without a trace. Lilos fell silent. Hikaru had planned this from the moment he activated Overload Future Fusion. He had never relied on a normal monster in the graveyard. Battle, Hikaru said calmly. Direct attack. The skeletal cart slammed into Lilos first, sending him crashing down. Then Gaia appeared behind him. That massive blade carried Gaia's rage toward invaders, his resolve as a lord to protect the weak, and the absolute power earned through becoming a true Black Luster soldier. Lilos LP, 3500 1800 0. Pain tore through Lilos. Chaos engulfed the man who had clung to a single, absolute belief, and stripped him of everything. With a final cry, he lost consciousness. At the same moment, the dual field dissolved. But then, Hikaru felt a sudden burning sensation. Lilos's body began to dematerialize, turning into blazing fire. Tiara murmured quietly, "That's his soul." Pulled by some unseen force, it shot skyward, staining the heavens a deep, ominous red. Chapter 496, Protection. Hikaru looked up at the sky. At some unknown point, it had become faintly tinged with red. But it was clearly noon. How could there be a hue like sunset in the middle of the day? He lowered his gaze toward the Fusion Army soldiers. A few of them, thinking he had caused it, immediately huddled together in fear. Even Yugo, who had just let out a sigh of relief, grew tense again. Hikaru frowned deeply. Could it be that Leo Akiba never considered whether his subordinates would succeed at all? Had he made some kind of contract with a strange earthbound immortal, one where regardless of victory or defeat, the duelist's soul would be taken? If that were truly the case. Hikaru looked back at the sky. The shifting colors had clearly already devoured an unknown number of people. And as that red spread, the sky of the entire world seemed to slowly reveal something else, not clouds, not light, but patterns. Geoglyphs. The geoglyph of an earthbound immortal. But unlike ordinary ground paintings that only covered a single region, this one seemed to envelop the entire world. Hikaru walked toward what remained of Lilos. More precisely, toward Lilos's dual disc. He picked it up, removed the deck, and quickly flipped through it. Normally, Hikaru wouldn't do something like this to a defeated opponent. But the Fusion Army was different. He'd never denied having a double standard for them. That said, he had no intention of using the Transcendosaurus series. Keeping them was enough. The good news was that the deck contained Ptyranodon and Babycerosaurus, cards Hikaru would not hesitate to take. While he was doing this, the remaining Fusion Army soldiers took the chance to flee at full speed. Hikaru didn't chase them. He feared it might be a diversion. Losing sight of Rin and Yugo would be far worse. After putting the cards away, he glanced at his left hand. His dark sign wasn't glowing. That made sense. This opponent had truly intended to settle things with him through fusion. Even though a synchro monster like Brachiosaurus was involved, it was fundamentally different from those who had tried to defeat him using pure number-based power. From a duelist's perspective, Lilos wasn't at fault. Even his attempt to use local power to interfere with the duel was merely a tactic. What was truly abnormal was that, after losing, Lilos had turned into a soul and merged into the sky without a word. After all, their duel wasn't bound by any agreement where the loser would die. And yet Lilos had been swallowed up the moment he lost. That left only one possibility. No matter who he dueled, as long as he lost, his soul would be taken. And if that was true for a Fusion Army general, what about the soldiers? Probably the same. No, perhaps it was even worse. Maybe even ordinary civilians were being absorbed. No wonder Crow had mentioned seeing so many security police on the way. Hikaru shook his head, stowed his dual disc, and mounted his D-wheel. Then he contacted his communicator. UCI. How are things on your end? At UCI's residence, phone in hand, he watched as the people lying on the ground slowly dissolved into light and shadow. He glanced at the girl who had just woken up, clearly confused and unaware of what had happened, and replied. Everything's fine here. But this girl doesn't seem to be the Serena you mentioned. I see, Hikaru said quietly. Then Serena must be with Crow. Hikaru couldn't help but sigh. That unlucky girl. Earlier, when he'd received news from Trudge, Hikaru had immediately dropped everything, mounted his D-wheel, and began searching for her, while also reaching out to a few acquaintances in this dimension. Crow and UCI. Luckily, both of them had just encountered a Rin. UCI had reacted quickly, informing Hikaru that he had an experiment scheduled that night, and that there was a parade in the lower district today. Because of that, Crow was unlikely to be there. which was why Yusei had urged Hikaru to go check on Rin first. Therefore, Hikaru immediately changed his search route. Instead of heading toward the upper levels, he turned toward the orphanage, and coincidentally witnessed Yugo arguing with the security police. Hikaru pinched the bridge of his nose. He told Yusei about the strange change in the sky. Yusei's expression instantly grew serious. After acknowledging it, he ended the call in haste. Leaving his laboratory, Yusei looked up at the faint red glow spreading across the sky, and memories from the future surged back into his mind. One of the greatest adversaries to ever contend with the Crimson Dragon for the position of the Soul God. The strongest earthbound immortal Crimson Nova. He instinctively touched his right cheek. A sharp pain stabbed through him, causing him to frown. Although his face now appeared no different from that of an ordinary person, a lingering discomfort remained. Still, it was well within the range he could endure. Yusei turned to look at Ruri. Those unidentified men had burst into his laboratory earlier, attempting to forcibly take her away. After he knocked them down one by one with his fists, they tried to defeat him in a duel, only to refuse their loss and transform into red souls. At the time, Yusei hadn't had the chance to investigate further. Instead, he had spoken with the girl who had just awakened, gradually learning what had happened. The good news was that Ruri was well-educated, calm, and sharp-minded. Her analysis of the situation was remarkably accurate. Despite it being their first meeting, she had willingly shared everything she knew, allowing Yusei to quickly grasp the broader picture. She was from another dimension. More importantly, she was the companion rescued by Serena, the junior Hikaru was so concerned about. That alone eased Yusei considerably. He'd been worried she might be as impulsive as Yugo, so being able to communicate calmly was the best possible outcome. "I'll take you to my backup base first," Yusei said. "After that, I'll go find Hikaru. You two can stay together there." If Ruri hadn't literally fallen from the sky and landed inside his laboratory, no one would have found this place under normal circumstances. It wasn't arrogance in his base design, it was simply that, according to future records, these locations were areas almost no one ever passed through. Yusei mounted his D-wheel and sped off, circling the lower district countless times. He shook off pursuers and opportunistic looters taking advantage of the chaos, then finally brought Ruri to a vast underground laboratory. As he turned on the lights, rows of display screens illuminated the room. One by one, they activated, revealing live views of different levels, districts, and roadways throughout the city. From this place, nearly the entire city could be monitored. In fact, this was precisely why Yusei could respond so quickly to emergencies, whether it was Hikaru's sudden appearance in this dimension, or Kiryu's frenzied sacrifices of prisoners. Ruri stared at the screens in amazement, briefly wondering whether the man who had saved her was actually some kind of secret supervillain. Yusei gestured toward the keyboard and mouse beside the console. "The controls are simple. I've already synced them with my D-wheel," he explained. "If you see anything that needs immediate attention, tell me. More importantly," he added seriously, "keep an eye on these areas. If anyone starts moving toward this location, notify me immediately, I'll come back as fast as I can. A two-pronged safeguard. Just in case." Yusei believed this was the safest option. Chapter 497, Wings. Both Hikaru and Yusei dealt with the fusion army effortlessly. That was only natural. Their individual abilities and dual skills were already on entirely different levels. Even Yusei, who had long since abandoned the dragon mark, was no longer an ordinary human, but a modified unification god. To expect ordinary fusion army soldiers, even with scientific enhancements, to contend with a crystallization of future human technology like Yusei was nothing more than wishful thinking. However, Crow's situation was far from optimistic. He'd been distracted ever since he left earlier, unable to focus. Along the way, he rescued a young girl, and just as he was about to take her somewhere safe, a large group of people immediately swarmed him. These weren't ordinary security police. They lacked the restraint and professionalism Crow remembered. The moment they appeared, they began firing guns and cannons without hesitation. Even during duels, they attacked in groups, showing no mercy whatsoever. As someone who had been imprisoned more times than he cared to admit, Crow knew better than to confuse these people with the police he remembered. So even when they claimed they were arresting criminals, he didn't believe a single word. Earlier, he'd heard the girl behind him shout, and only then did he realize that she knew these people well. She understood exactly how they operated. Although Crow's writing skills far surpassed theirs, these Dimension Police were utterly unreasonable. They repeatedly used solid vision technology to crash obstacles directly into his path, blocking roads and forcing him to change routes again and again. Even so, he still couldn't shake them. Worse yet, this area lay closest to the upper district, where Fusion Army police were the most concentrated. Soldiers appeared everywhere, hemming Crow in and forcing him higher and higher in elevation. In the end, he was even driven toward the upper district itself just to barely avoid capture. Damn it! Crow dodged another physical obstruction and cursed under his breath. In writing duels, using solidified cards to destroy the opponent's path, or worse, directly interfere with their tires, was the dirtiest tactic imaginable. It was strictly forbidden. Seeing this, Serena grabbed onto the back of Crow's D-wheel and started throwing anything she could find behind her, Fusion Army helmets, goggles, scraps of equipment, hoping to slow their pursuers, even a little. Crow, how are things on your end? Ah, Master. Serena recognized the voice instantly. She hadn't expected such luck, running into Master's acquaintances so quickly in this dimension. Neither Hikaru nor Crow paused to question her reaction. Crow replied immediately, "It's bad. They keep using physical attacks." "Hold on," Hikaru said firmly. "UCI and I are on our way." Just as the words left his mouth, Crow noticed something strange. The massive GG screens mounted on the towering buildings along the roadway all switched simultaneously. Emergency broadcast: terrorists have broken into an elementary school in Sector 5, forcibly abducting and controlling multiple children. A large-scale riot is currently underway. All patrol units are ordered to return to base immediately. Crow's eyes widened violently, his pupils contracting. The wanted criminal displayed on the screen, it was Shinji. Shinji. The name tore from his throat instinctively. But at that exact moment, the police, who should have been retreating and sealing roads, instead intensified their pursuit. Taking advantage of Crow's brief distraction, they rammed his D-wheel head-on. The sudden impact destabilized Blackbird instantly. At the same time, some unknown explosive detonated with a thunderous bang, nearly flipping the machine over. Crow and Serena were thrown clear. As they crashed to the ground, Crow twisted instinctively, shielding Serena with his body. Fortunately, the explosion produced few fragments. Neither of them was seriously injured. "Careful! Don't hurt Miss Serena," someone shouted angrily. "Are you insane? She's the professor's daughter." Although Leo Akaba had never been particularly kind to Serena, in their eyes she was still his biological daughter. At most, this was a conflict between an old father and a rebellious child. Their orders were clear: bring Serena back alive, not kill her. In fact, even for the other two girls who looked exactly like Serena, the professor's instructions had been the same: bring them back unharmed. Anything beyond that was unacceptable. The Fusion Army soldiers disguised as police saw Crow fall and immediately exited their vehicles. "No need to rush," one of them said coldly. "And no need to listen to the security police's orders. Our mission is to retrieve Miss Serena," another added. "And make sure she doesn't escape again." Crow felt a dull numbness spreading through his thigh, pinned beneath the fallen D-wheel, but he barely noticed it. The pain in his mind was far worse. Because of his weakness, he hadn't been able to stop Shinji, watching helplessly as his friend spiraled further and further into extremity. Because he lacked power, he couldn't resist these brutal, physical attacks. And because he didn't have enough power, all he could do was stand by and watch UCI modify himself, forcing a smile the entire time. He had always longed to fly. With Hikaru's help, he had finally soared through the skies on his D-wheel. And now, he was nothing more than a bird trapped in a cage, able only to stare up at the heavens. The sky. Blood red. Crow froze for an instant. Then his eyes snapped into focus. With a roar, he grabbed the side of the fallen D-wheel and heaved. The machine flipped violently, forcing the surrounding Fusion Army soldiers to stagger back in shock. "Get in," he shouted. Serena didn't hesitate. She threw her last smoke bomb, then scrambled onto the D-wheel. "Don't panic, he won't get away. Surround him. Even if he had wings, there's nowhere to escape." They were on a suspended lane. If the Fusion Army blocked the road with their D-wheels, Crow would have no way through. And the starting speed was too slow. At that moment, Crow unleashed strength far beyond that of an ordinary human. His right leg was nearly numb, but he jumped onto the D-wheel anyway. Using gravity, he stomped down on the accelerator and rammed sideways. Because of the heavy use of solid vision attacks, much of the lane's guardrail had already been destroyed. And that was his escape route. The D-wheel burst through the broken guardrail and launched into the open air. Serena gasped. Crow slammed a button. With a mechanical whine, the Blackbird D-wheel unfolded wings and shot sideways through the sky. The Fusion Army soldiers stood frozen at the edge of the lane, staring in disbelief as Crow crossed the gap between suspended roads, slamming down onto a lower lane tens of meters away. Did it really grow wings? Bang! Bang! The D-wheel hit hard, bouncing twice. Crow scanned the area, and only when he saw nearby police completely ignoring him, rushing frantically toward the upper district, did he finally breathe out. They weren't the same group. Which meant his heart sank. If the ones earlier were after the girl behind him, then the police racing back now were. Boom! The ground ahead ignited in pale blue flames. A corridor of fire stretched across the lane, forming a massive pattern suspended in midair. And then, under Crow's stunned gaze, Shinji burst through. Driving his D-wheel like a madman, he smashed through several officers blocking the way and tore past like a gale. In that instant, Crow saw them. 2 crying children. Bound with rope. Tied to the back seat like livestock. "Shinji!" Crow roared. His numb right leg suddenly surged with strength. He slammed the accelerator and gave chase. Crow! Though Crow didn't say another word, Shinji heard him. And he understood. Crow's fist slammed into the D-wheel's control interface. Dual mode activated. A cold, merciless voice echoed from both machines. As if declaring that in this moment, friendship no longer existed. Only a duel remained. Chapter 498, Broken Wings. Buzz. As the duel began, flames surged across the entire dueling field. Shinji roared in fury, accusing Crow of betrayal, while Crow said nothing, his expression cold as he relentlessly pursued Shinji. Behind them, the sector security units that had rushed back also witnessed the scene. That kid Crow. As a man destined to be overworked for life, Trudge had actually been slacking off for a short while that morning, only to suddenly receive an emergency order to pursue a kidnapper. He rushed over without hesitation. He could tolerate many things. But kidnapping kindergarten children was absolutely unforgivable. Grabbing a megaphone, he shouted at Shinji. "Shinji Weber. Whatever your demands are, we can discuss them properly. Release the children you've kidnapped. No matter what, children are innocent." Shinji's expression didn't change in the slightest. At this moment, he was completely consumed by the power of the Earthbound. His destructive urges and malice were fully amplified. Already radical by nature and prone to extremism, he had now been pushed into outright madness under the influence of the evil god. And yet, despite his mania, his internal logic remained intact. "Nonsense," Shinji sneered. "You people from the upper district always act superior, treating those of us in the lower district like livestock to be used however you please. Our efforts, our voices, you treat them like jokes." He laughed harshly. "And you keep saying children are innocent, But aren't you the ones capturing children today? What Shinji was referring to was the incident he and Crow had witnessed, Serena being forcibly taken away. The speaker at the time may not have meant it that way, but the listener remembered it clearly. Shinji, who had finally begun resisting the upper district only to be crushed again and again, was desperate. When he saw Crow trying to save children, an opposite idea formed in his mind. If they couldn't defeat the upper district through strength, then they would drag them down together. They would force the upper district to witness their wrath firsthand. You. Trudge stared at him as if he were insane. I'm just doing exactly what you people from the upper district do, Shinji snapped. So tell me, what did I do wrong? Trudge clenched his teeth. He couldn't refute it. Because even he, a police officer, had been disgusted by the filthy deeds of the upper district's nobles during this time. Crow. Shinji shouted. You understand too, don't you? I'm just using their own methods against them. Why can't you understand me? Shinji. Crow gritted his teeth, riding alongside him. Protecting children is something everyone should do instinctively. If we harm children, then what are we, worse than beasts? Even if your resistance succeeds, won't you just become the next noble? How dare you compare me to them? Shinji roared. You're doing the exact same thing as them right now. Sizzle, sizzle. The two D-wheels slammed into each other side by side. The children screamed in terror. Serena lunged forward, trying to grab one of them, but the D-wheels separated instantly. Her hand closed on nothing but empty air. At that moment, Crow instinctively shut his right eye and let out a quiet gasp. Ha! Crow, Shinji said, narrowing his eyes. Looks like your leg's injured? As a writing duelist, and one of the earliest pioneers of writing duels in this dimension, Shinji paid close attention to driving posture and physical condition. He noticed Crow's instability immediately. And almost at once, he made a decision. Buzz. At the very last moment of the turn, Shinji abruptly altered his speed and trajectory. Their positions swapped. Crow suddenly found himself taking the corner first. His expression changed. What's wrong? Shinji sneered. It's your turn first. He glanced back at the pursuers behind him and snorted. As long as he defeated Crow, he could gather as many followers as he needed afterward. These useless sector security units wouldn't be able to touch him. Then, he could threaten the families of the upper district with these two children. On the other side, Crow clenched his teeth. He looked at his hand. Then at Shinji. After a long moment of hesitation, he leaned back slightly and whispered something to Serena. Serena stared at him, startled and confused. But after meeting his gaze, she nodded. My turn. Crow drew a card. He glanced at it and spoke firmly. Normal summon Blackwing, Mistral the Silver Shield. A black-winged bird wearing a silver shield mask burst from the card, flying forward to protect his field. Blackwing, Mistral the Silver Shield Level 2 Dark Winged Beast DF, 1800. I set one card and end my turn. Is that all? Shinji stared at him, his right hand trembling uncontrollably. Crow. Your body is already this broken, and you're still trying to stop me? Do you really want to prove that you're right that badly? I'm not trying to prove anything, Crow replied quietly. I just believe children shouldn't be dragged into this. Then don't blame me, Crow. Shinji roared. The dark sign on his wrist flickered violently, and the fundamental power of the Earthbound, born from his twisted belief, surged outward. The corridor of flames darkened, thickened, as if responding to his rage. Normal summon. Level 2 Tuner Monster, Battle Wasp Sting the Poison Sting. A fierce gust of wind swept across the dueling field. A mechanical bee appeared, its metallic wings vibrating violently as venom dripped from its micro-stinger. When this card is normal or special summoned, Shinji declared, I can add one Battle Wasp monster from my deck to my hand, except itself. I add Battle Wasp, Twin Bow the Double Bow. And now, during my main phase, I activate its effect, I special summon it. I tune my two monsters. Unleash explosive winds with membranous wings, and carve the path of truth with your Caliceri. Synchro Summon. Level 5, Battle Wasp, Spirit Bow. The Azusa Bow. A humanoid bee wielding a bow appeared in midair, its eyes locked coldly onto Crow. B-Force, Spirit Bow. The Azusa Bow. Level 5 Winged Insect ATK, 2200. Battle. Spirit Bow, attack Blackwing, Mistral. The Silver Shield. Azusa Bow slowly drew its string. The arrow flew. It pierced straight through the silver-shielded Blackwing, and didn't stop there. The projectile slammed into Crow's D-wheel, forcing it to decelerate violently. Its trajectory shifted slightly, aimed deliberately at Crow's injured leg. Crow cried out in pain as control slipped from his grasp. "That's despicable," one of the pursuing sector security officers shouted instinctively. Targeting an injury like that. Although riding duels could involve direct attacks on the opponent's body to end the race, such tactics were shunned in the lower district, where freedom was valued above all else. Even sector security rarely crossed that line. But this wasn't just solid vision anymore. Shinji's monsters had gained physicality. They could truly injure. Yet Crow wasn't surprised. Instead, through the pain, he forced out one last burst of strength, and rammed his D-wheel straight into Shinji's. "You're asking to die." Shinji snarled, his eyes wild. Bang! Ah! Crow screamed. Shinji intended to strike and pull away, but suddenly realized something was wrong. Crow was clinging to him. Desperately. "What are you doing?" Shinji shouted in shock. He looked back and saw Serena standing on Crow's D-wheel, recklessly moving toward him. "Are you insane?" Shinji yelled. "Even if you jump over, the ropes aren't untied. If I throw you off, you're finished." But the moment Serena leapt, the ropes loosened. As if by magic. Shinji couldn't see it. He couldn't see that earlier, when their D-wheels first collided, Serena had thrown a small panda forward. And that panda had been quietly working at the knots ever since. Waiting for this exact moment. The next second, Serena jumped again, without hesitation. She grabbed both children. And tore them free. Crow. Shinji completely lost control. He smashed into Crow with all his strength. At that moment, Crow felt something ease inside him. His worries were gone. He had already understood Shinji. He had already figured out how to save the children. So this was the price. As the one who initiated the duel but no longer focused on winning, being struck down was inevitable. His D-wheel shattered under the impact. Crow's body was hurled into the guardrail. But the guardrails, already destroyed by the fusion army, could no longer protect anyone. He fell. A bird that had lost its balance. A crow that could no longer fly. Like a meteor, he plunged from the sky. And finally. Thud. A crater cracked open in the ground below. Crow lay at its center, staring up at the sky. The red sky. Slowly, the light faded from his eyes. Chapter 499, True Resurrection. Crow. UCI, rushing at full speed, saw a dark figure plummet from the sky and crash down with a deafening impact. When he looked again, all he could see was Crow's body lying motionless on the ground. Crow! Hikaru shouted as well. He reacted a fraction of a second faster than UCI, immediately calling out to Tiara and asking her to intervene if anything went wrong. Tiara had no interest in the fate of ordinary humans, but since Hikaru had asked, she had no reason to refuse. And yet, she failed. No matter what, Tiara was already in a semi-resurrected state. Even a normal earthbound immortal should not have been able to obstruct her. I clearly reached out to grab him just now. Tiara stared at her hand in disbelief. Something stopped me. She hadn't caught him. Even now, she couldn't understand it. Her power should have surpassed that of any earthbound immortal present, so why had she been blocked? Crow. Shinji looked down at the scene below, teeth clenched so hard they nearly cracked. But he said nothing. Things had gone too far. There was no turning back now. On the other side, Trudge and the surrounding police officers stood frozen. Especially those officers who had once believed the lower district was nothing but thieves, trash, and criminals. Watching Crow sacrifice himself to save 2 children from the upper district shattered something inside them. Some slapped their own faces instinctively, muttering that they were not even human. Serena leapt from the D-wheel. She shielded the 2 children with her body, relying on her extraordinary physical strength, far beyond that of any normal human, and the force dissipation techniques ingrained through countless experiments. She emerged unscathed. The children, however, were not so fortunate. The violent impact had rendered them unconscious, though thankfully their breathing remained steady. Serena steadied herself and rushed forward, about to check on Crow. Only to see police vehicles already stopped, officers standing in silence and grief, gazing downward. How could this happen? Though she had known him only briefly, Crow was her master's friend, and the man who had saved her and the 2 children. In her heart, he had already become someone she could call good. How could it end like this? Trudge was the first to snap back to reality. He slapped his own face hard, then turned to Serena. "Little girl," he said hoarsely, "put the 2 children in my passenger seat first." He pointed to the front of a large police vehicle, and Serena quickly complied. Even knowing that Serena was technically a criminal the higher-ups wanted apprehended, Trudge did not care anymore. He did not even bother pretending. What he had just witnessed was burned into his heart. Recently, his world had begun to feel unfamiliar, as though he were wandering a barren wilderness with nowhere left to stand. The nobles of the upper district were arrogant parasites, trampling others without restraint for their own gain. The lower district had people like Crow, but those who resisted only vented their anger, never truly striving to build something better. He could no longer trust either side. Perhaps he could only trust himself. And then, a detached figure, someone not bound to this world at all, flashed through his mind. Hikaru. Trudge shook his head. The police cameras from the chase should have captured everything. Soon, the footage would spread throughout the entire world. At the very least, for Crow, that would be some comfort. But just as that thought crossed his mind, a massive shadow suddenly descended over them. A pitch-black silhouette swallowed the road. Trudge blinked and looked up. And froze. On the road connecting the upper district and the lower district of city, a colossal pattern had appeared out of nowhere. A geoglyph. What is that? At the Security Administration Bureau headquarters, the under-house arrest Godwin stood calmly with his hands clasped behind his back, gazing out the window. In the distance, a massive geoglyph had emerged, seemingly dividing the upper district and the lower district apart. If anyone compared them closely at this moment, they would discover something chilling. That enormous geoglyph was identical to the pattern embroidered on Godwin's clothing. "Have you chosen? So it really is him," he murmured softly. The next moment, Crow, who had lost his life, consciousness, and all brilliance, suddenly opened his eyes. A wisp of black whirlwind slowly rose around him as its center. To everyone's shock, the whirlwind began to spin violently, expanding without restraint, until it became a towering pillar, a hurricane connecting heaven and earth. "What's happening?" Trudge shielded his face, barely keeping his footing against the raging wind. An earthbound immortal. Seeing the scene and recalling information from his memories, Yusei made an immediate judgment. "Ha?" Hikaru was momentarily confused, then finally understood why Tiara had failed to save anyone just now. Shinji stared at the massive storm rising from the ground, as if isolating the entire world. He clenched his teeth and started running. He knew something terrifying was about to happen. The next second, before he could even react, a voice spoke right beside him. "What's wrong? What are you staring at?" Shinji jolted and turned his head. Standing next to him was Crow. At this moment, Crow wore a uniform similar to Kiryu's, though in a different color. Aside from that difference, it was almost identical. More importantly, his eyes had changed. No, not changed to be like Shinji's. Shinji used power derived from an earthbound immortal. Crow was wielding the power of an earthbound immortal itself. Shinji's gaze shifted to Crow's back. There, an insignia was blazing. A dark sign. Unlike others, it did not appear on an arm, but directly on his back. It was simply too large to be placed anywhere else. Crow, you were chosen as a dark signer. Shinji shouted in shock. Crow had intended to speak calmly, but hearing Shinji's words, his expression became cold and distant. Yes, he said flatly. I have returned from hell. If you have this power, why not use it against the upper district? We should be on the same side. Why are you still saying this? Crow replied, his voice icy. And you? You took those two children and deliberately abandoned the duel, using any means necessary. Can you still call yourself a duelist? Yes, Shinji said hoarsely. I used any means necessary for my choice. And because of that, I died. He raised his head, eyes burning. And now, I will settle this duel with you completely. For all the children who might be harmed again because of you in the future. Crow closed his eyes. Shadows flashed through his mind. At the moment of death, he remembered seeing a colossal divine bird looking down at him, asking why he would do such a thing. Why sacrifice his own life to save people, to save children who were supposed to be his enemies? He did not know. He only knew that he had done what he believed was right. And now, he possessed power. He could finally do what he had always wanted to do. He would never allow anyone to sacrifice themselves again. Or perhaps, he wanted everyone to live in a safe world. A world without conflict, a world where people could grow beneath his protective wings. This was his choice as a dark signer. His resolve to compete for the only god. TCH, then I'll eliminate you, this obstacle, for the liberation of the lower district. Shinji snarled. The two rode side by side, both going all out, no schemes, no restraint, no mercy. Screech, screech, screech. The D-wheel tires screamed as metal ground against metal. After a sharp turn, this time, the one who truly seized the lead was Shinji. Duel. Both shouted at the same time. Shinji, LP, 4000. Crow, LP, 4000. Chapter 500, Strangers. I'll take the first turn. Shinji roared. Drawl. The two D-wheels rushed off the normal track and onto a massive flaming road suspended in the sky, neither willing to yield. Those two, they're flying? Trudge said in shock. Hikaru and Yusei, while riding, activated their D-wheel broadcast function and began watching the duel. Honestly, the situation had developed beyond Hikaru's expectations. He never imagined Crow would also become a dark signer. From the looks of it, he might even be the dark signer chosen by the ultimate earthbound immortal. He needed to understand everything that had happened. At this moment, the duel had truly begun. I activate the effect of Battle Wasp Rapier the Onslaught from my hand. By discarding another insect-type monster from my hand, I place one Battle Wasp Wind face-up on my field from my deck. Then, special summon this card from my hand. This turn, I cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck, except insect-type monsters. Come forth, pin the bullseye. A jet black mechanical bee appeared, carrying the continuous spell behind it. Battle Wasp Rapier the Onslaught. The effective continuous spell Battle Wasp Wind. Up to twice per turn, if a Battle Wasp monster is normal or special summoned, I can add one Battle Wasp monster with lower ATK from my deck to my hand. Battle Wasp Rapier the Onslaught 1900 ATK, so I add Battle Wasp Arbalest the Rapid Fire with 1800 ATK to my hand. It's not over. I normal summon Battle Wasp Arbalest the Rapid Fire. Then I activate its effect. I special summon the tuner monster I discarded earlier, Battle Wasp, Pin the Bullseye. Battle Wasp Wind activates again. I add another Pin the Bullseye from my deck to my hand. From a single card, Shinji had instantly created a field full of monsters. Countless mechanical bees hovered in formation, staring coldly at their opponent. They resembled a suicide squad ready to die for their commander. He summoned that many monsters instantly? Sector Security gasped. So strong, was he always this strong? Trudge muttered. The effect of Battle Wasp, Pin the Bullseye. During my main phase, it inflicts 200 damage for each copy on my field. The small bee flew forward and stabbed Crow. Crow did not even react. Crow LP 3800. I activate Battle Wasp Wind's second effect. Once per turn, I can treat one insect monster as a tuner. I choose Pin the Bullseye. I tune level 1 Pin the Bullseye with level 5 Rapier the Onslaught. With wings that stir explosive winds, carve open the path of truth. Synchro Summon. Level 6. Battle Wasp. Sachi the Ceremonial Bow. A bee warrior holding a massive bow appeared, landing gracefully on the flaming road. Battle Wasp Sachi the Ceremonial Bow level 6 Wind Insect. ATK 2400. When Sachi is synchro summoned, it becomes a tuner. Now I activate its second effect. Once per turn, I can return one continuous spell card from my field to my hand. This turn, during my main phase, I gain an additional special summon of one Battle Wasp monster, in addition to my normal summon. I activate Battle Wasp Wind again. Shinji's eyes burned with intensity. This was his true power. Activate continuous spell. Battle Wasp Wind. What? Trudge gasped. That card is incredibly powerful, Serena said quietly. He can search again. Normal summon Battle Wasp, Pin the Bullseye. I activate its effect. I add Arbalest the Rapid Fire to my hand. Battle Wasp Wind activates again. I add another Pin the Bullseye. Finally, I tune level 2 Pin the Bullseye with level 4 Arbalest the Rapid Fire. Synchro Summon. Level 6. Battle Wasp Halberd the Charge. The massive bee warrior slammed its weapon into the blazing road. Battle Wasp Halberd the Charge level 6 Wind Insect. ATK 2500. Battle Wasp Wind activates. I add Battle Wasp Rapier the Onslaught to my hand. The police watching were stunned. With this back and forth, wouldn't he be able to perform the same combo again next turn? Even more terrifying, next turn Shinji might be able to establish 2 Battle Wasp Wind cards on the field through Rapier the Onslaught's effect. I set one card and end my turn. Shinji placed the card down coldly and glanced sideways at Crow. Crow, show me how you duel. I'll show you, Shinji. Drawl. Serena watched the broadcast nervously. Even though she did not fully understand synchro summoning, she could tell that Shinji's deck was simple, direct, and extremely aggressive. His power flowed endlessly, one wave after another. When she thought about Crow's previous duels, Crow looked at his hand and raised one card. If I control no monsters, I activate the effect of Blackwing, Simoon the Poison Wind. By banishing another Blackwing monster from my hand, I set one Black Whirlwind directly from my deck. Then, Simoon the Poison Wind is special summoned. This turn, I cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck, except dark monsters. Ha! What? The police and spectators gasped in unison. Because this was exactly the same. If Black Whirlwind had the same effect as Battle Wasp Wind, then this duel. Normal summon, level 6, Simoon the Poison Wind. Black Whirlwind activates. When a Blackwing monster is normal summoned, I add one Blackwing monster with lower ATK from my deck to my hand. It really is the same strategy? Identical tactics. Serena stared in shock. In this world, duels were not just battles. They were rituals of spirit. The stronger one's belief, the stronger their deck. Her master had proven that. Using the same tactics, the same summoning methods, even similar monster names. There was only one explanation. These two duelists had started from the exact same origin. But why had they ended up on opposite sides? Same path, different choices. A violent black whirlwind rose around Crow's D-wheel. Based on Black Whirlwind's effect, I add Blackwing, Sudri the Phantom Glimmer, which has less than 1600 ATK, from my deck to my hand. Then, I normal summon it. At that moment, Sudri the Phantom Glimmer's effect and Black Whirlwind's effect activate. Black Whirlwind's effect allows me to add one Blackwing monster with less than 1400 ATK from my deck to my hand. Sudri the Phantom Glimmer's effect allows me to add one card that mentions Blackwing Dragon in its text from my deck to my hand, except Sudri itself. I add Blackwing, Shamal the Sandstorm, which mentions Blackwing Dragon, and Blackwing, Veda the Emblem of Wandering, which has less than 1400 ATK, to my hand. Next, I activate Shamal the Sandstorm's effect. By sending this card from my hand or field to the graveyard, I place one Black Feather Whirlwind from my deck face up on my field. Black Feather Whirlwind? Shinji, who was dueling Crow, couldn't help but ask when he heard the name. What card is that? He and Crow were extremely familiar with each other's decks. They often exchanged strategies, since both of their duels revolved around continuously special summoning monsters and searching their decks to perform repeated Synchro summons. But this card Crow used now was completely unfamiliar to him. Crow glanced at him but did not answer. This was power he had gained after being resurrected as a Dark Signer. If I control a Blackwing monster other than Blackwing, Veda the Emblem of Wandering, I can special summon it. Then, I activate its effect during my main phase. I send this card and one or more non-tuner Blackwing monsters from my deck to the graveyard whose total levels equal 8, and special summon Blackwing Dragon. Buzz. Yusei had already stopped his D-wheel on the roadside, watching the two duelists racing and dueling through the sky, his brows tightly furrowed. A deck. Synchro summon? This is the first time I've ever seen synchro summoning directly from the deck, Trudge said in shock. Even the nobles of the upper district probably didn't possess cards of this level. Screech. On the other side, Hikaru braked sharply, pulled his D-wheel to the side of the road, jumped off, and strode straight toward Serena. Ah, master. Serena, who had been focused on the duel, suddenly felt herself grabbed by the back of her collar and lifted up like a piglet. She struggled briefly, but after seeing it was Hikaru, she immediately shrank back timidly. Seeing this, Trudge realized they knew each other and did not interfere. Serena! Hikaru shouted, still holding her. Do you have any idea how worried I was about you? I'm sorry. Master. Serena curled up in embarrassment. Tell me everything that happened. Hikaru took 2 deep breaths, glanced at the duel unfolding in midair, then forced himself to calm down. I'll deal with you later. Yes, sir. Serena instinctively gave a fusion army salute. Don't do that here. Speak normally. Yes, sir. Serena stiffened. Meanwhile, Crow had already completed his play. He sent 2 monsters from his deck and Blackwing, Veda the Emblem of Wandering from his field to the graveyard. A massive black dragon descended onto the field. Blackwing Dragon Level 8 Dark Dragon ATK 2800. I activate the effect of Black Feather Whirlwind. Once per turn, when I special summon a Dark Synchro monster from my extra deck, I can target one monster in my graveyard with lower ATK and special summon it. Come back, Blackwing, Shamal the Sandstorm. The level 4 tuner reappeared instantly. This guy filled his field in an instant. These two are terrifying. They've mastered synchro summoning. Hikaru frowned as he watched. The Blackwing deck truly lived up to its reputation as a former championship-level deck. Its ability to extend plays was overwhelming. I tune level 4 Blackwing, Shamal the Sandstorm with level 6 Blackwing, Simoon the Poison Wind. Black Whirlwind, drive the wings of the sky. Fully armored warrior, descend upon the battlefield. Synchro summon. Level 10 Blackwing full armor master. Click. A black armored winged warrior appeared silently, loading a weapon before resting a massive blade on his shoulder, staring at his opponent with cold indifference. Blackwing Full Armor Master Level 10 Dark Winged Beast ATK 3000 Def 3000. 3000 ATK. Same as Red Dragon Archfiend. But the pressure is completely different. I activate Shirahama the Sandstorm's effect in the graveyard. If I control a Blackwing Synchro monster, I can banish this card and add one Blackwing monster from my graveyard to my hand. I add Blackwing, Summon the Poison Wind to my hand. He even recovered the card that can place Black Whirlwind. With this effect, I would take 700 points of damage. However, Blackwing Dragon's effect activates. If I would take effect damage, I place one Black Feather counter on this card instead, and I take no damage. For each Black Feather counter on Blackwing Dragon, its ATK decreases by 700. Blackwing Dragon. ATK, 2800-2100. Next, I activate the effect of Blackwing, Zephyros the Elite in my graveyard. I return one face-up card on my field to my hand to special summon this card, and I take 400 damage. I return Black Whirlwind to my hand. Blackwing Dragon. ATK, 2100-1400. Now I activate Blackwing Dragon's effect. I remove all Black Feather counters on it and target one monster on your field. That monster loses 700 ATK for each counter removed, and you take damage equal to that amount. Crow pointed forward. I choose Battle Wasp, Sachi the Ceremonial Bow. Its ATK decreases by 1400, and you take 1400 damage. Blackwing Dragon spread its crimson glowing wings, releasing a rain of dark feathers that struck the mechanical bee warrior. Shinji's LP. 4000-2600. Battle Wasp, Sachi the Ceremonial Bow. ATK, 2400-1000. These two, not only are their synchro strategies similar, they're even damaging themselves to activate their effects. Why are their duels so alike? Trudge calculated quickly. If those attacks go through, Shinji will lose. Battle. Blackwing Full Armor Master, attack. Shinji roared. In your dreams. Open my face-down card. Trap card, Urgent Tuning. During the battle phase, I synchro summon. I tune level 6 tuner Battle Wasp, Sachi the Ceremonial Bow with level 6 Battle Wasp, Halberd the Charge. Membranous wings and stingers, carve the path to truth. Become the ultimate weapon of resistance. Synchro summon. Level 12. Battle Wasp, Ballista the Armageddon. A colossal mechanical bee appeared, its massive ballista stinger aimed directly at Crow. Battle Wasp, Ballista the Armageddon Level 12 ATK 3000. When Ballista the Armageddon is synchro summoned, I banish all insect monsters in my graveyard. Then, all monsters on your field lose 500 ATK in def for each monster banished. I banished 6 monsters. All your monsters lose 3000 ATK in DF. Blackwing Dragon. ATK, 2800-0. Blackwing, Shirahama the Sandstorm. Def, 1400-0. Blackwing, Zephyros the Elite. ATK, 1600-0. However, Crow said calmly, Blackwing Full Armor Master is unaffected by other card effects. Shinji clicked his tongue. TCH, but now its ATK is equal. Crow continued calmly. Full Armor Master's effect activates. Each time your monster activates its effect, it gains a wedge counter. Full Armor Master fired its weapon, marking Ballista the Armageddon. You plan to use its destruction effect to revive your banished monsters and continue synchro summoning next turn, didn't you? Shinji remained silent. That strategy. They had created it together. Once. For the sake of protecting the lower district. But now they stood on opposite sides. Full Armor Master's third effect. I take control of your monster with a wedge counter. Ballista the Armageddon was forcibly dragged to Crow's side. And now. I activate the effect of Blackwing, Sudri the Phantom Glimmer. I tribute one monster and special summon a phantom glimmer token. Then, I would take 700 damage. Phantom Glimmer Token Level 2 Def 700. Black Winged Dragon. Black Feather Counter 01. Ballista the Armageddon disintegrated. Shinji's field became empty. Crow. Shinji. Shinji roared. To defeat the upper district, we must eliminate every enemy by any means necessary. Crow shouted back. No. Protecting everyone, and making sure no one gets hurt, that's what's right. Their D-wheels collided violently again. They had already walked toward two completely opposite extremes. That wraps up this part of What If Fusion Deck User in a Different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Quick reminder. The series What If Transmigrated as Minato Namikaze is now on hold, since we're caught up with the author. Along with that, the series What If Fishing System in Food Wars World will be going on hold soon, since we're nearly caught up with the author there as well. So now, I need your help picking the next 2 projects for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these 3 fanfics. What if creating the strongest Strawhat crew by reading manga? What if Transmigrated and taking over Ichigo's body? What if martial artist Reborn is Kenichi Shirahama? Please vote in the poll and let me know which stories you'd like to see next. I'll take the top 2 picks and start working on those series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.